We are working on question 4. That was the question about how much time or how many minutes customers spent during their last visit to your t-shirt shop. Some said 1 to 5, some said 6 to 10, 11 to 15, 16 to 20, or 21 to 25. So we're going to be constructing a grouped frequency distribution, doing some calculations with that, and then constructing a histogram. So open up your Excel file and go to the data spreadsheet page or tab, and we're going to select all the responses to question 4. So click in cell E2 where it says time spent, and then drag down through all of the responses. And we're going to again ask Excel to count how many of each there are by giving us a pivot table. So insert a pivot table. Click on OK in the little box that comes up. And now here, click the checkbox next to where it says time spent and drag it down into the values box. Now you should have 5 categories here. 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, 16 to 20, and 21 to 25. I actually ended up with 6 categories because there's 21 to 25 without spaces, and then there's 21 to 25 with spaces. That's because, if you go back to the data spreadsheet page, when I typed in this entry, I put in spaces that weren't there in basically the same thing in one of the other rows. So to fix that, hopefully that didn't happen to you. Hopefully you just had the 5 different categories. But if you did get one of these broken up into 2 separate ones like this, one thing you can do is just yourself manually add those numbers together. So like 1 plus 13 would be a total of 14 responses that say 21 to 25. But if you actually want to fix this in Excel, you don't have to, but you can. Go back here, change this so it's the same as the others, delete the extra spaces. So now it looks like everything else that says 21 to 25. And now go back up here, click on Data, refresh all, and that fixed it. Now I'm going to go ahead and change the name of this particular tab from Sheet 1 to Q4 Pivot. We're not going to be really doing anything else with this particular sheet, but this is just so we remember what this is. Now, write down these numbers. Write down, and if you printed out the instructions, there are blanks where you can write them down on the instructions. Otherwise, just write them down on a piece of scrap paper that class 1 to 5 has 12, class 6 to 10 has 16, class 11 to 15 has 11. So these are the numbers I got. You're going to get different numbers, so make sure you write down the numbers that you got. And now, click over here on the tab that says Amount of Time. That's going to take you to a page that looks like this. And notice there are spots to fill in the frequencies of those 5 classes. So go ahead and type in the numbers that you wrote down. For mine, I had 12 in the 1 to 5 class, and then 16, and 11, and 2, and 14. And I want those to be centered. So I'm going to select all of those, go to the Home tab, and click to center them both horizontally and vertically in those cells. I got to go here and correct this. It shouldn't say amount spent, it should say amount of time. That's something that I just forgot to correct when I was setting up the Excel file for you. So change that, the little heading there, so that it does say amount of time, because those represent amounts of time, 1 to 5 minutes, 6 to 10 minutes, and so on. Now we're going to fill in the cumulative frequencies. Now you could just do the calculations yourself and type in the numbers, or you could have Excel calculate it for you. So the first cumulative frequency should be the same as the first frequency. For me, it's 12, but it's whatever is in cell E3 here. So if you just type equals E3, it will give you the correct number. Then the next one down should be these first two numbers added together. For me, it's the 12 plus the 16, but it's going to be E3 plus E4. Then the third cumulative frequency is going to be these three numbers added together. It's going to be the contents of E3 plus E4 plus E5. Then this will be E3 plus E4 plus E5 plus E6, or you could just say it's the sum of E3 through E6. So that's another way of getting it. Equals sum, S-U-M, and then in parentheses, E3 colon E6. And then the last one is the sum of E3 through E7. And that last one should be 55. If you add up all of the frequencies, they should add up to 55. And in fact, let's add them up and put the total down here at the bottom of this column. So click in cell E8. Now, make sure you're in the Home tab and go up here and click where it says Auto Sum. If I just click on that and then hit the Enter button on my keyboard, it does automatically give you the sum or total of the numbers in that column. Now, some of these aren't centered, so I'm going to go back and fix that. Now we're ready to fill in, well, this column would be the midpoints. So in this box here, cell H3, we want the midpoint of the first class, the number that's halfway between 1 and 5. If you know what that is, you could just type in the number. But if you want Excel to calculate that for you, type in equals, parenthesis, B3 plus D3, close parentheses, divided by 2. So that's adding together these numbers 1 and 5 and then dividing by 2. 1 plus 5 is 6, divided by 2 is 3. That's the midpoint. And if we did it that way with the formula, we can just copy that down to the other cells to get the other midpoints, 8 and 13 and 18 and 23. Now in this column, we're going to want frequency times midpoint. So the frequency is over here in column E. The midpoint is here in column H. So for frequency times midpoint, I'm going to click in cell I3 and type equals E3 times, that's the asterisk, so hold down Shift and hit the 8 key, H3. So there's the frequency 12 times the midpoint 3 gave me the 36. And then I can just copy that formula down to the rest of the cells in that column. And now I'm going to click in cell J3, and this is frequency times midpoint squared. So type equals E3 times H3, and then the caret, the up pointy thing, is what you get when you hold Shift and type 6, and then 2, so H3 to the second power. So that was 12 times 3 squared, 12 times 9, which is 108. And now copy that down to the rest of these. Now we do want the totals of these two columns. So I click in cell I8 and then click where it says Auto Sum and hit Enter. So that gives me the total for that column. Click in cell J8 and click Auto Sum, and that gives me the total for that column. Now we're going to calculate the mean. So click in cell G10 and type equals I8 divided by E8. So that's an equal sign and then the letter I. So be careful, that's not the number 18. It's the letter I and the number 8. And then a slash for division and then E8. So that takes this number here in cell I8 and divides it by the total frequency in E8. So that gives you your mean. So the mean is 12.09 minutes. And we really want it to show only one digit after the decimal point. So with this selected, I'm going to go up here and click on the decrease decimal button so that it's only showing one digit after the decimal point. So it's rounded to the nearest tenth. So 12.1. Now for the variance, I'm going to click in cell G11 and type equals parenthesis J8 minus I8 squared, so caret 2, divided by E8, close parentheses, divided by, open parentheses, E8 minus 1, close parentheses. So it's important to get that formula typed exactly right. You can see what the formula is on the instructions, but type that in just like that. And that calculates the variance. Now the standard deviation is the square root of the variance. So I'm going to click in cell G12 and type equals SQRT parenthesis G11 close parentheses. So that's going to give me the square root of the number that was in cell G11. And I'm going to go back up here and decrease the decimal so that that's showing one digit after the decimal point, so that that's rounded to the nearest tenth. Now for the range, I'm going to click in cell G13 and make sure it says text up here so that it's expecting you to type in text so it doesn't interpret this as like a date or something. So if this doesn't say text, choose text from the drop-down menu. So in cell G13, the range here is just from 1 to 25. So that's what I'm going to type here, 1 to 25. And then for the modal class, you have to look and see, okay, which class is your modal class? Which is the class with the highest frequency? For me, it's this one here, 6 to 10. It's got a frequency of 16, which is higher than the others. So down here in cell G14, make sure it says text, and type whatever your modal class is. For me, it's 6 to 10. Now save what you have. That completes all of these calculations, but we still need to draw a histogram based on this grouped frequency distribution. So I'll come back in the second video and show you how to do the histogram.